Great to see you, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. It's good to see you again, Joe.
Cool. So, just for our audience, last week we had a really exciting conversation with James Brobin, Marine Corps officer, Purple Heart recipient, who's leading a cannabis and CBD company. And one of the key reasons that he got into the industry is to help address some of the mental health issues that both he dealt with and that a lot of his comrades dealt with, and how CBD and cannabis can help solve some of those. And James is an amazing entrepreneur and business leader. And this week, I'm honored to have Michael Mauti join me. Michael's a former NFL linebacker, played for the Vikings and the Saints, was the captain for the Saints special teams. He's also one of the co-founders and headed up business development for Seed the System. So, Michael, it's great to have you.
Thanks for having me on, Joe. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, quick question for you. So, how old were you when you started playing football? And what was it like to have a dad who played at Penn State in the NFL to be kind of lingering over you as you're playing from a young man to an older guy as well?
Well, I mean, I started playing. My dad wouldn't let me play until I was 13, until I was
Oh,
got
wow.
into down here is junior high, so seventh grade.
Hmm.
But he didn't want us to just do one thing. I was playing baseball before that, and got a little burnt out running around travel leagues and year round down here. But no, he was. My dad was definitely always. Once I got into football, that's of course what I aspired to do, was to play in the NFL and follow those footsteps. Just because that's the pinnacle of football. But he wasn't that kind of dad in the sense of, he wasn't necessarily coaching me up. He wasn't in any coach's ears. He was kind of a
Hmm.
passive. Just he was more just taught me about the intangibles and the way that you go about the mentality towards the game. Being able to flip the switch and all those things that you get, kind of this the mental aspect of the coaching factor. But he was never that kind of hands on, as far as you got to put your feet here or there. It was
Yep.
just all more kind of just the mental aspect. And but it was it was an incredible resource just for me. It's just to have him as a mentor along the whole way. At every step in the process, whether it was college, high school to college to the professional level, but how to approach the game from a mental standpoint. It's
That's really interesting
invaluable.
to me that, one, you didn't start playing till 13, right? So American sports today is so focused on, got to start your kid at 6, and you got to get special coaches at 7 and 8, and they're grinding. And I just see it's such a burnout process for the kids. It's a burnout process for the parents. And I watched a 30 for 30 special on Norway, and they asked the guy who headed up their Olympic program, because they just went and dominated Winter Olympics. They're like, what do you guys do? They're like, we look at everything they do in America and we do the opposite. And they want to make it fun. They want to make it engaging. And they say they don't really start getting intense until they're about 15 or 16. So the fact that you played at the highest level of your sport and didn't start till you're 13, and your dad focused solely on the mental aspect, is really interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, you see so many kids that just get burnt out. They get so much pressure put on them by everybody except for them, and
Hmm.
at the end of the day, that's just where you just get off track. If you don't love doing what you're doing, it's too hard. It's too much work if you don't
Yep.
if you don't love it, if you don't want to do it and make that decision. And it really is. Um, my dad was great about that part of it. And I really didn't even develop physically until I was 15, 16, to where, I think when I first got into football, I hated it because I was the smallest kid out there. And so I got the crap kicked out of me, but um, and I didn't want to play because I just kept getting
Yeah.
knocked around. But that's the part of, I mean, really the work ethic and the way you
Hmm.
approach, just the getting better each day, and then pushing yourself beyond what you think you're capable of, as far as from a training standpoint. That was all the things that he was really teaching me.
I mean, it's a game of collisions, and I love the game of football. I mean, I love watching it on Saturdays and Sundays. I still play flag football for an almost 50-year-old guy, and like to get into plays and everything. But I'm 150 pounds, right? So it was never going to be beyond fun for me. But one of the things I love about the sport of football, in addition to having physical components, and you hit upon it, is certainly the mental aspect and the leadership aspect. And when I mean, I guess it was, I mean, you could probably tell me 10, 12, 15 years ago, I remember sitting at home when the Jerry Sandusky story broke, and it was absolutely heart wrenching. as an alumni. I can't remember really how long it's been till something rattled me to some degree. Just to see some of the stories about Joe Paterno, who is certainly revered as a leader and a leader of consistency, and what that meant to my alma mater. And what I kind of didn't realize till I was kind of doing some background reading on you, that you were there for that process, and we're in the middle of it. I can't imagine what that was like to be a 20 some odd year old young man, to have that swirling in the middle of the tornado. And what fascinated me is not only were you in the middle of it, but you actually took a leadership role in that process to say, hey, we're going to still commit to the program. We're going to commit to the university, and to rally a lot of your teammates. Talk a little bit about that leadership component, what that situation was like, and maybe where some of those leadership skills came from.
Yeah, that was shoot, that was the craziest. I say crazy. I mean, that was the most stressful time, unprecedented time of my life, but also in an entire school's history and that football program's history.
Yep.
And it wasn't like we had anything to do with the events that took place. It was just the fact that the whole fallout was happening while I was just a captain on the football team, and I just realized it was, football became really a vehicle or a mechanism that could help bring the community together to help heal from what had happened, and you just realize there was so much. There's so many agendas getting floated around, and none of the. I just happened to be there. Whereas, hey, nobody that is here right now had anything to do with the things that had happened. So, we're going to just rally up together and then keep this thing rolling. Just based on the fact that there were just so many people, including my dad included in his generation, and that had helped build that program, and we felt like it was our duty, as senior leaders to keep it together. And we had some great coaches and players that believed in that and helped us keep it together. But it was we were definitely in some aspects we shouldn't have pulled it off, but we did.
It was amazing. I mean, honestly, I have so much respect for Bill O'Brien, who's unfortunately just fired midway through the season down at but that's the NFL, not for long, right?
That's a business.
It is a business, as you know. But in order to have winning records year after year, in order to keep a large majority of the players not from jumping, because the NCAA gave them an opportunity to go someplace if you want to go someplace else. And I saw like kind of your comments on that you were not happy with the way that process took place. But it seemed like you played a pivotal role in keeping the players there, right? Because now they wouldn't be able to go to a bowl game, achieving a national championship. That opportunity was gone. Was that a difficult process, or once you felt like you had a core team members and said, hey, let's rally around each other, that people started to climb on board? Which I imagine if people had taken a different path, it could have completely gone the other way and could have been 0-10 for several years. But some people predicted, Penn State's going to lose every game for the next 3 years. And that wasn't the case at all.
Yeah, that would have been the case, and that's kind of what helped us, at least helped me rally, to get juiced up about it, was because here we are. We had a great team. There was 23 NFL players on that roster that was in 2012 at Penn State. Some of them were younger, some of them are different various classes, but that's how much talent we had on that team. So. For all of a sudden us to just not play or not be good, we just took that personally, and from a leadership standpoint, I just always believed in being honest with the guys and having that kind of respect for them, and being able to. I wasn't asking anybody to do anything I wasn't willing to do. And our senior class, really, we had just so much leadership on that team, not just myself, but and then of course we had leaders like Bill O'Brien. Craig Fitzgerald, our strength coach, but a lot of guys, Coach Larry Johnson, the D-line coach, and the list goes on. But really, that's where I learned a lot about really leadership, and I was getting emails and support from around the world, from Penn State, the network and the alumni base, and it's just something that you believe in. It's a lot of people, especially today's culture of just instant judgment and trial by fire. And trial by Twitter. It's like, here's just a group of guys just trying to hold the thing together, and it had nothing to do with. Of course, it was terrible what had happened and what took place.
Absolutely.
but we were just trying to make the best out of that situation. And but yeah, we went from on a Monday got sanctioned. On Tuesday, we had a list of 40 some guys that were out of there, that were
Wow.
gone. That we kind of just had to one by one re-recruit and our own teammates, our
Mm-hmm.
friends,
Mm-hmm.
shoot by Wednesday, Thursday, towards the end of that week. That's we kind of bought us a little time to keep everybody together, but it
I,
was definitely a chronic stress
I,
environment, that's for sure.
I think you hit on a couple things. One, which is, hey, when things get difficult, it's an option is to quit, right, or go someplace else. I'd have to think that because you guys pulled together through a really difficult time, that developed a special bond with you and your teammates that will probably carry a lot deeper than most teams, which are already pretty tight. And
No
it's a
doubt.
lifelong lesson for sure. Um,
Shoot,
yeah.
to have the opportunity to show that level of commitment and leadership,
Mhm.
and which is rare just to begin with. Now more so, where guys can leave and come and go. But that kind of loyalty, you just don't get those opportunities to prove it on such a national scale in front
Yeah.
of the media. And no, it was, look, we had private jets waiting for me, other players at the airport, and here the building's on fire, and we're going back in the building.
Wow.
That's kind of how the analogy I use, but that's we just had to freaking we created our own little bubble where we just ignored everything going on outside. And yeah, those kind of bonds, they are for life. Yeah, absolutely.
That's incredible. So you've been playing football, I guess, 10, 15 years, and ultimately it took a toll on your body. Talk a little bit about, the surgeries you had, the injuries you had, and just kind of, how you got through that. And it wasn't necessarily just the injuries you had to deal with, but also the remedies that were given you, and how that started to impact your digestive system.
Yeah, I mean, look, you put on a helmet and you run into people as fast as you can for years and years, and full speed collisions, it's going to take a toll on your body. That's just the nature of it. Especially, I was in a position where that's what I did: just go
Hmm.
tackle the man with the ball. And
Yep.
it's so when it came to, I had 3 ACL reconstructions in college. Um,
Mm.
you play football long enough, the injury rate is 100%.
Yep.
It's not like you're not going to get hurt. Um, so there's always the factor of, as the early years, it was, the doctor just throws you a bag of ibuprofen 800s, and you don't know anything. You're just eating because it feels good, and you're not sure what it's doing, and the understanding of what these what Celebrex, all these anti-inflammatories, you're just cranking. And then it's just that over time started to affect my digestive system,
Mm.
and so I had to look for more natural ways, to just fight the aches and pains, just to be comfortable, and continue doing what I was doing on the field. So, but shoot, eight or nine surgeries,
Mm.
orthopedically, to fix me up. Screw in the foot, couple of knee reconstructions, shoulder, fingers, those kind of things. I start adding up, and then once I got into the NFL, that's when I started dealing with the ulcer colitis from a
Mhm.
gastro perspective, and then just learning. That was a whole new challenge for me, because by that period of time, 2 3 years in the NFL, I got my own team of people that put me back together: chiropractor,
Mhm.
massage therapy,
Mhm.
orthopedic. I got a list of people, that I got my own team. Kind of, from an internal perspective, I had to build a new team of doctors I trusted, which is integrated functional medicine, biologists,
Mhm.
nutritionists, and
Mhm.
just find people that were helping me do something that no one had ever done, which was get my entire colon removed and then come back to play football
Mm.
then in the next season. So that was a challenge of proportions I had never dealt with, and just did it.
So in many ways, you had to not just rely on the doctors, the team doctors, the NFL doctors, but you had to go and say, "Hey, I think there's a better way here to some degree, or something's not right." And you had to almost, put together your own team of physicians that had a different approach. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I realize, once you sit in a doctor's office, 20 or 30 of them, over time, and they're all, you realize, look, at this point, I've done enough research on this stuff. and then you start realizing, hey, there's different schools of thought here
Yep.
when it
Yep.
comes to treating something, and maybe we don't understand everything that we know about this
Mm-hmm.
disease and the microbiome, and so complex that and I'm just giving this kind of cookie cutter blanket treatment, and so I could
Yep.
pretty much tell in a few minutes with meet with some doctors that hey, thank you for your time, kind of thing,
Mm.
and so yeah, I did a lot of research. There's some of it is still, it got to be data proven, and a lot of that stuff has got to, need more evidence for a lot of the treatments to go on a mainstream like Western pharma scale.
Mm-hmm.
But the pharma was that treatment option for me was really starting to take its toll, and it was jacking
Right.
me up physically, and I really just was like, I can't be on these pills and everything for the rest of my life. I just
Yep.
wanted to find a natural solution. And so I was started body hacking,
Mm-hmm.
researching Tim Ferriss, Ben Greenfield, all those guys. And then, so I kind of, you meet with integrated functional medicine, you do the blood tests,
Mm-hmm.
and you do all
Mm-hmm.
those food allergies, and you go to some sitting in the doctor's office at a hospital, and they're telling you, what you eat is not going to matter. And then I'm like, okay, so there's got to be some kind of middle ground here. So that's kind of where it started for me. And then that's when I started taking CBD, and I really felt like when I was taking gel caps and started doing my own, data
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and tracking it, and I realized, hey, it's helping me for this, and I wasn't even taking it for this, but it's helping with that too. I realized, and
Mm-hmm.
it's so I started just doing self data collection, and then after surgery, my first surgery, which I got split up my abdomen within, I go from morphine drip in the hospital to 6 days I'm out, and I'm like, let me just see if this CBD stuff works on pain,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
just start testing it. And the first day, I woke up, took some gel caps, and then it was like 7 p.m. that evening, and I realized I hadn't needed a painkiller.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, okay, this is starting to definitely work on my pain threshold in some form or fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Let
Mm-hmm.
me explore this more. Um, and that kind of trial for me went on for like a few years, and I tested different products, different delivery methods, and then that really was where it started. That was 2 or 3 years of that.
And that's absolutely fascinating, and kind of shows your mindset, which is kind of a methodical, meticulous. You're taking notes. I mean, you were your case study, right? And I think you're not talking about like I take it, but it's more kind of sleep and just mellow out. Some minor pain management, but nothing significant. But you're talking about like high pain management, so like you're going to notice a difference, right? You
Right.
just get out of surgery, and you have like 9 different surgeries that you've had throughout your body. You're going to have some aches and pains. You're going to know if you're feeling a 7 or a 3. Um, how were you introduced to CBD? Is it something you just discovered? And then, and so all right, you're like, I think we have something here. And then how did you find the brands and products that you can trust? Because there's a lot of garbage CBD out there.
Yeah, that's really that's what I realized, is that there was so many products out there, and I found the same, because I was always taking supplements, and I was always reading on the back of the labels, and I had a pretty good understanding of what ingredients did what in terms of building muscle, cut either fat or those kind of things, amino acids, proteins. I was living in the animal kingdom,
Mm-hmm.
um, in terms of those kind of supplements. So my filter as far as what makes a good product, the labeling, the package, and all that, had a pretty good gauge, and so I took that approach to CBD products, and I had a pretty good idea of the top upper echelon of brands, and then I got into the extraction research and realized, oh, there's reasons why some is better than others,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not because of what the label says, it's because of how they take the oil off the plant and that process. And so I just started, like you said, just a methodical approach to, okay, what goes into making a product that's better. And I had a friend of mine, a teammate of mine, he had a plug, so I got a deal. I was getting a half off deal on this other brand,
Mm-hmm.
and that worked for me. I settled with that, and it was good enough. And I remember, um, you know. They had like these 75 milligram gel capsules, and I would take 2 or 3 of them, and that's kind of what I thought the range was.
Hmm.
And I remember when I met Shane, our CEO. This was about last July, so more than a year ago. He uh, he gave my dad a bottle of our gold tincture.
Hmm.
Started talking about vapor distillation and all this, and I'm like, okay, that sounds interesting. Let me put it to the test and I'll find out. And I mean, from the first time I put a dropper, um, the taste of it, the flavor of it, it was different and unlike
Right.
anything I had tasted. And then I sat on the couch and I just waited and just kind of put my antennas up, just kind of seeing how it felt. And next thing you know, I'm like, okay, this is the best stuff I've taken.
Mm.
And it was pretty immediate. It was actually that immediate. And then so I didn't call Shane or anything. I've waited like a week and I tested it for a week, and it
Hmm.
ended up being like 7 or 8 days. And I'm like, okay, no doubt in my mind, what I got to find out what makes this as good as it is, because nothing has this kind of potency. And I wasn't taking that much of it. That's the other thing. So I knew there was something special about it, and so shoot, I think uh, within 2 weeks of that, I was on a plane, and I was going to Colorado because I had to
Mm.
find out more, and then that's when I realized that, well, this is vapor distillation, this is proprietary from an engineer at MIT, and this is how they do it, and then that's what I was like, well, I want to get behind this because
Yep.
this stuff is real, and it's not only helping me, but I know that how many people could benefit from this, and if they just realize that how much crap is out there on the market, and how
Yep.
much not knowing, here's something I can get behind, I could trust. If I can trust it, we got something, because my filter was pretty tough at that point.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about like what's happening in the CBD market today, and there's there's a handful of good companies who are doing it the right way. I mean,
Absolutely.
there've even been some big brands who have gone under because they weren't doing it the right way recently. And but they're good at telling their story and raising money. But there are some good quality companies. We've had the fortune to work with them who are working on they're GMP certified. Um, how are you guys managing? I don't know. Do you guys run into a lot of skepticism when you're pitching your brand, or people are asking you questions about manufacturing? I know that you've always talked about wanting to, like, hey, not surprising the way you ran your business when you're on the football field and kind of post football and taking notes about doing things the right way, having transparency and making sure that you guys continue to have a great product.
Yeah, that's also, as I was reading and learning more and went out and visited, saw the farms and the whole facilities, the operations at Seeded System. I realized, okay, this isn't just a product label brand. This is seed genetics with our partners at High Grade Hemp Seed. This is our farms. This is our proprietary vapor process, and this is our product manufacturer CGMP. So we had this entire supply chain vertical with co-ownership that, hey, maybe we got something we could really tell the story of hey, within 20 miles we got from genetics all the way to the bottles,
Hmm.
and that's a differentiator. I'm not saying that we're the only company or companies that have that sort of model, but it's a rare thing, and that's you can see that now in the industry where the supply chains are just, you see these fly by night companies, and you're buying this oil from a company that corpse oil or whatever, and it's just, you get this oversupply, and it's such a variable market, and every facet of the supply chain, that it's being able to stay diverse and have really, just, it comes down to partnerships. Our partnerships help us with insulated from a lot of that volatility.
Oh yeah, we talked to a young woman here in New Jersey who wants to start getting into sourcing their own product. She visited a farm up in Vermont and said there's like just gross, like where they're hanging their flour, their biomass, just bugs everywhere, spider webs everywhere. She's like, yeah, I don't think it's supposed to be like this. This could be a problem, and we're not going to work together anymore. So I mean, it's just so important to get your eyes on your partners in facilities that are doing the work for you. So so now you're in business and you're an entrepreneur. Talk a little bit about that process and what it's like getting into entrepreneurship, What are some challenges that you're facing that you didn't expect? Tell me what that world's looking like for you.
Well, that's I really just shoot. I left football. Coming on 2 years now. So
Mhm.
I wanted to take a year and just take a gap year, figure out set my compass, figure out what the next 20 years is going to look like, and do something that I was as passionate about, but something different. I always felt like I had more to offer than just football. And
Mhm.
so I had looked at some coaching opportunities, some broadcasting opportunities, and I just, when I learned about CG system and the whole process, the industry, I just found myself, I couldn't stop reading about it. I couldn't stop studying it.
Yep.
And that's when I'm like, okay, well, let's make this my job because I'm just that passionate about it, believe in it. And so shoot, I came into it barely knowing how to email. And
Right.
I came from just, text or call, and here I got to get up to speed quick. And that's it's not like I had a team or agent or anybody. Everything was, if I don't know how to do it, learn how to do it.
Mhm.
Do tutorials. And so I started from zero. Not zero, but pretty much just had to just humble myself to the point where, okay, let's start from one. And because I'm 8 years behind of the workforce here, that I have been doing something that really, I started to take the transferable skill sets, and as I took the time to identify them over the last year or two, and say, all right, what is my value to any organization? What are my best skill sets? And then, all right, let's transfer them to this in this industry where, leadership, those kind of things, the relationship building, the networking, all those things, to where I know I can bring a lot of value, and help just legitimize it. But from an entrepreneurial standpoint, yeah, the learning curve was pretty steep, but that's just the way it is. And so I don't dip my toe in the water when it comes to doing anything that I'm passionate about. So, whatever it takes. That's been my mentality.
Well, I think it's apparent that you have the soft skills, right? Which are the most important thing. If you're willing to work hard, self-educate, humble yourself, surround yourself with smart people, um, dive in and not afraid to make mistakes, you'll get there eventually. Maybe not the way we intend to. Maybe things don't always go as smooth. You have an idea, but
They never do.
no, man, for sure. I mean, I've been involved in 6 or 7 early stage businesses, either as a co-founder or founder in some capacity, and none of them like hit it big per se, right? Like I'm still working for a living, but every time I've just learned something valuable, and to me, that's the journey. That's that's the growth. I can put food on the plate and have a roof over our head, and working at a great organization now. But that's just I've just learned to enjoy the process and get better as a business leader and entrepreneur is what it's all about for sure.
That's I think that's you hit the nail on the head. I learned to stop getting I would get frustrated myself. I'm like, I feel like
Mhm.
a Neanderthal just banging a computer because I can't figure out this IT thing, or some sort of, it's a PDF. I need a JPEG, or
Yep.
but
Yep.
so I just had to just learn to just trust the process and just
Mhm.
enjoy. Look, if I'm better than I was last week, this
Yep.
week, then okay, that's all right. I can just, that's my minimum threshold, and then next week will be better. Look, I stopped being so hard on myself because, hey, I'm just getting going. And then you see the progress. Football was more instant gratification. We studied hard for seven
Yep.
days and we play on Sunday, and it's now, and everything's like the ups and the downs are so, the time scale is just compressed.
Yep.
Whereas, business, my time expectation for how things develop, and the gratification you get is just a stretched out time frame. So that, in general, for me, just had to understand the process and then
Mhm.
go through the process and trust the process.
Yeah.
That's If you love the process, then the rest will just take care of itself.
I like to say slow is smooth and smooth is fast. The beautiful thing today is if you're willing to hop on Google or YouTube for basic things, like it's going to show it to you all the time. So, hey, man,
Absolutely.
6 weeks ago, I was like, all right, let's do a podcast. I'm like, what do I do? How do I make a podcast? Like, you start Googling, and here we are now. So you just figure it out, and you call
Yeah,
people.
absolutely.
Called a buddy of mine who does podcast consulting, and he's like, yeah, man, you're pretty much on track. And here's some tips for you. Here's what I do. And we're rocking and rolling. So, that's awesome. So what are some other things you're working on? I know you're on the board, at a nonprofit. Talk a little bit about that and how you ended up there and anything else that's keeping you busy these days.
Yeah, well, we got a lot keeping us busy. I'm kind of doing the same. I'm launching my own website. I'm learning social media and SEO and doing all this. Everything's got to go digital. I don't want to get left in the dark and not understand all the technical integration that's going on, especially at such an accelerated rate with the COVID. I just think it's this year has really accelerated that integration. And we're working here with the e-marketing agency that we're sharing space with, and so that I'm learning all those things. But we just moved. We're updating our cancer fund, which my dad started 40 years ago to raise money with the mission of prevention, service, early detection, education.
Great.
And
So
so we're
important.
raising money for that, and
Yep.
without a doubt. So that's kind of I always knew I wanted to be a part of that mission, and so we started as I'm doing all my research on these cannabinoids, and I'm reading studies from Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and I'm about cancer, and I'm bringing back to my dad. I'm like, hey, we got to get on top of this and share this resource with the people here. This is Louisiana, this is deep South. It's not always.
Yep.
The best place to access a lot of those resources. So we started making products specifically for chemo patients, and got my dad's blessing on that to where now with the CBD system we have products where all the profits and proceeds of the sales go to research or go to providing chemo patients with we give them oil, we give them
Oh, that's fantastic.
and a lot of that is the regulatory aspects are still playing out, but the bottom line is that there's proof, there's data to prove that this stuff is helping, and it's just not here and done in the U.S. at this standpoint. But 1,000 patient cohort studies, that sort of data is there, it's out there. It's just I think bringing that awareness to it and then being a part of that evolution in the next wave of treatment for cancer and cannabinoids and how those things relate. And the Cancer Fund, we want to be a part of that movement, and we tied up all the other cancer nonprofits in the state and to form one group to really leverage our influence here. And we just recently got a bill passed in Baton Rouge a few months back to help with funding experimental treatments for patients that they're candidates for, and that's all done in conjunction with the medical system and the insurance companies here in the state. So that was a big thing we're really proud of, and we're looking to do some more things with that.
That's amazing. What I love about what you're doing is it's not the break fix model, right? Like, hey, something's broken, let's put a Band-Aid on it. It's getting to root cause analysis. Like, why is cancer continuing to grow? And I have to think it's part of what we're putting in and on our bodies, right? So, sugar, the use of sugars and corn syrups has exploded, which is inflammatory and just creates a nice environment for that. The fatty foods and not the right kind of fatty foods that we're eating is not the right type of thing. What's the impact of pesticides and bad soils that we're growing our vegetation on? Those things, all those components, you start to add those. I just have to believe are having a big impact. And I love that you guys are saying, hey, like, how do we prevent these at a macro level and then use, certain natural remedies to help solve some of that is a big impact. But what's the name of the nonprofit and how can people learn more?
Yes, well, it's the Mauti Cancer Fund.org. That's our website. We just revamped the whole website, and we're going to be building that out. But yeah, that's the main thing, is just to give patients resources, access to something that helps now, as opposed to, hey, we're not just raising money for research that you won't see or feel for 10 years. By the time it gets through the research pipeline, this is something that, hey, it's safe, it's effective, and we're not saying it cures anything. We're not saying that it doesn't treat, prevent any kind of but these things take the edge off. And they
Yep.
help, even if it's this much, that's enough to where, okay. And I, at some point we'll be able to show the testimonials and the feedback that we've gotten from people and I get calls once a week where, people are in tears just telling me how much that it has helped them, with nerve pain or just all the side effects that go along with what the damage that those treatments do to the rest of your body, not just the actual cancer cells. So it's a lot of things that make you feel good while you're doing it and helping people, and that's what it's all about. So that's an exciting project we're working on and continuing to grow.
Yep. I mean, having those things we're passionate about, like you said, and helping other people can certainly drive us for sure. So we're going to move into the next phase, something I call the transparent 10, Michael. And these are where I'm going to fire off 10 questions at you, and you just hit me with the things that first pop in your mind. All right.
Yes, love it.
All right. All right. Cool. So, what's your most proudest achievement?
Proudest achievement. Well, I guess about 5 years in the NFL. But coming back, when I was voted by my teammates to win, nominated for the Ed Block Courage Award, which is basically voted by the for the player that you felt like had overcome the most adversity in the off season. Basically, and I had entire large intestine colon removed, starting in November, 3 stages of surgeries, and I was back on the field in August.
I don't know if that's amazing or a little crazy, but I think a little bit of
It's
both.
absolutely
That's
crazy.
awesome.
It's a little bit of both. You're right. But, that was one of my proudest moments. That was my last comeback. I made a deal with myself.
I love it. So, what's a failure that you've learned from?
I think just trusting people in business too soon, probably.
Yep.
I come from an environment where the locker room is you don't have to look over your shoulder. You know that person you're with has got your back, has trust you with everything. I'm if anything, I'm a little too trusting too soon. We're on the same page. I'm a team guy. I'm ultimate team. Let's go. I don't have to worry about, but some of those things, there's a balance where you kind of trust but verify, and that's probably the biggest lesson I've learned.
You said it, trust but verify. A good contract and a good attorney at your back will help a little bit, but not always, for sure. So what's something you love to do?
I love to play the piano. I love to play the piano.
That's cool. What's something you hate to do?
I hate doing my taxes. I hate doing numbers. I'm not a numbers guy.
Guilty pleasure.
Guilty pleasure. Dirty martinis. Let's call it that.
I like it. Favorite band?
Favorite band. I have a few, but it depends on I'm a big music guy. Favorite band. I guess I'm gonna go with my all-time AC/DC.
All right. Favorite movie?
Favorite movie. Interstellar.
All right. Favorite vacation?
Buenos Aires.
Something you suck at in business?
There's plenty. There's plenty right now, but probably email. Staying on top of emails. Writing letters to people.
Something you're great at in business?
Networking, people, relationships.
Not surprising. Michael, man, it's been awesome. I'm glad we were able to take some time to sit down and learn a little bit about your story. And how you just have, and in many ways, I'm excited to see it just beginning. I think some people struggle, and we've talked about before, the struggles of transition, whether you're in the military or you're in the NFL, to go from one phase to the next. But I'm excited to see you just diving in head first, building something great and seeing where it's going and figuring things out. So I appreciate you joining me today. What are some websites where people can learn more about Seed to System and your nonprofit?
seedtosystem.com. That's our company website. They have a little bit about our partnership, and we did a roll-on product, a topical, and then we're coming out with a 50 milligram vapor capsule, which is a product that we're developing proprietary. And then the Mauti, it's just MautiCancerFund.org. You can find out about both of those.
And that's Mauti for those people who don't know. So, all right, cool. We'll get that posted too.
Awesome. No,
Michael,
it's just been great. This is an example of a relationship right here, Joe. When we first met, and both Penn Staters, and
Yeah.
I'm just glad to be continuing this relationship, and I thank you again for having me on, man. This is great.
My pleasure. Talk soon.
All right, Joe. Thanks.